We are living in a time when history is being written in blood, and the world's so-called leaders are treating it like theater. The world is watching another chapter of tragedy unfold. Last week, Donald Trump sat down with Vladimir Putin in Alaska. This week, he hosted Zelensky and a collection of European leaders at the White House. And yet, after all the travel, after all the handshakes, after all the smiling photo ops, do you know what we actually accomplished? Nothing. Not a ceasefire. Not a deal. Not even a shred of honesty about what this conflict really is. Nothing but photographs, handshakes, and more wasted time while innocent people are slaughtered. So let me share the hard truth with you.
The ultimate tongue lasher, the voice corrupt leaders dread. He shall not stop until their power is dead. Exposing every corrupt leader and every lie. With steel in his spirit, corruption will die. Corrupt leaders will tremble, the crooked will fall. Honor is the standard, integrity for all. Truth is his weapon, with fire in every word. His voice is the judgment, and justice will be served.
Let me make this perfectly clear. Putin is not interested in peace. Putin has made it plain. He wants Ukrainian land. He will not stop until he gets it. Zelensky has made it plain. He will not give up 1 inch of Ukraine. And he is right. Why should a sovereign nation surrender its soil, its homes, its people, just to satisfy the hunger of a dictator? That is not negotiation. That is not compromise. That is surrender, and surrender is not an option. These two positions are absolute. So I ask you, what is there to negotiate? What is there to discuss? Negotiations are only possible when there is something to trade. But here, the world is watching a dictator demand theft at gunpoint, and a free people refuse to surrender their homeland. He wants domination. He wants to restore a brutal empire built on corpses, and he will not stop until someone stops him. That is who he is. That is what he has always been. So there is nothing to negotiate. Trump, meanwhile, walked into Putin's trap. Putin stroked his ego with the simple act of agreeing to meet. And Trump, eager for the appearance of statesmanship, played right into his hands. It was theater, nothing more. And now today, with Zelensky and the European leaders, the same play continues. More talk, more delay, more weakness dressed up as diplomacy. European leaders flying across the ocean for another round of meetings that could just as easily be done on a video call. We see endless discussions, endless talk, while the killing goes on every single day. This is theater, ladies and gentlemen. Theater for cameras, theater for egos, and while they perform, people are dying. Here is the truth that no one seems willing to say out loud. Putin understands only one thing: brute force. That is the language he speaks. That is the world he lives in. And the longer we pretend that diplomacy will tame him, the more bodies pile up in Ukraine. Ukrainians are dying. Women, children, the elderly. Bombs fall, homes collapse. Lives end, while the so-called leaders of the world debate endlessly in warm conference rooms. Meetings stacked on meetings while graves are stacked on graves. This is not leadership. This is cowardice. The truth is simple. Putin only understands one thing: force. That is how he rose to power. That is how he maintains it, and that is how he wages war. He will not be talked out of his bloodlust. He will not be reasoned out of conquest. The only language he understands is overwhelming, decisive, and uncompromising strength. The paradox of history is this: sometimes peace can only be achieved through violence. That is not pretty. That is not easy. But it is reality. Against men like Putin, words mean nothing. The only thing that will stop him is power greater than his own. 3 years ago, the free world should have delivered an ultimatum, not another sanction package, not another shipment of weapons dribbled out over months. An ultimatum: you will stop this war, you will retreat from Ukraine, or we will collectively end your regime in a matter of days. Not years, days. And let me tell you what that looks like. It does not look like 3 years of half measures, slow sanctions and hesitant aid packages. It does not look like giving him time to regroup, to rebuild, to rearm. No, it looks like one swift, decisive action that destroys the Kremlin's power structure. This does not need to be a protracted war with boots on the ground and trenches stretching across continents. This does not need to be another Iraq or Afghanistan. It is a matter of overwhelming force applied directly to the source. Putin, his government, his war machine. Take it out in a matter of days, not years. Then, and only then, let the Russian people rebuild their country with new leadership, without a tyrant's shadow looming over them. That is how you stop the war. That is how you create lasting peace. Not by rewarding aggression, not by sitting across from a murderer and calling it diplomacy. And when that is done, Russia must pay. Ukraine cannot simply be left to pick up the pieces of devastation it did not cause. Every dollar of Putin's stolen fortune, every asset of his corrupt oligarchs, every treasure looted by his regime must be seized and delivered to Ukraine. These men have grown fat on blood money, and that money must now serve justice. If that is not enough to rebuild what has been destroyed, then the Russian state itself must carry the burden, either through its government or through direct contributions from its people. Russia must be held financially accountable. They broke it, they must fix it, and it begins with stripping every last ruble from the criminals who started this war. The tragedy is that the world could have given this ultimatum 3 years ago. They could have told Putin, "Stop your invasion or face annihilation." And had they done so, countless lives would have been spared. But instead, leaders dithered. They stalled. They hesitated. And today, they are still hesitating. They are still afraid to say what must be said. No land, no compromise, no negotiation. Stop or be destroyed. Now let me be absolutely clear. Even if Putin walked out tomorrow and declared the war over, he still must be held accountable. Stopping the war does not erase the past. It does not absolve him of his crimes. He is a mass murderer, and justice demands his removal. Peace without justice is nothing but a pause before the next slaughter. Now some will say, but this could spark World War III. I say to you, the war has already begun. It began when Putin invaded Ukraine. It began when missiles struck civilian neighborhoods. It began when he weaponized starvation, energy, and fear. The question is not whether we are at war. The question is whether the free world will keep pretending we are not. History is clear. Peace does not come from appeasement. Peace does not come from weakness. Peace is born from strength. And sometimes, yes, peace requires violence. Not endless violence, but decisive violence that removes the tyrant, ends the slaughter, and allows a nation to breathe free again. That is the paradox of our world. You cannot negotiate with evil, you must destroy it. So I say this, enough theater, enough handshakes, enough photo ops. If the free world truly believes in freedom, then act like it. Deliver the ultimatum. End the slaughter. Dismantle the Kremlin. Seize the wealth of the guilty and rebuild the homes of the innocent. That is justice. That is leadership. That is the only path forward. Either confront Putin with a unified ultimatum, backed by overwhelming force, or admit to the world that you lack the courage to stop evil when it is staring you in the face. Because history will remember. History will not remember the summits, the speeches, the staged smiles. It will remember who acted and who allowed tyranny to thrive. There is no gray area here. There is only right and wrong. There is only freedom and oppression. There is only life and death. Negotiation is a luxury you cannot afford with a man like Putin. The time for meetings is over. The time for ultimatums has come. And if the so-called leaders of the free world cannot summon the courage to deliver that message, then they have failed not only Ukraine, but humanity itself. And let history remember who had the courage to act, and who hid behind meetings while Ukraine bled. That is the truth. That is the analysis. And that is the choice before us. Thank you.
The truth is uncomfortable, but only truth sparks change.